Hello, I'm Daniel. I'm a meditation teacher in Kansas City, and this is my podcast, Sharpening the Mind. The teachings in this podcast are free of charge, but of course, if you feel compelled to make a donation, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes. Hello, I'm going to talk about changes today. Changes. Have you ever had this experience in life where you view things a certain way and then your perspective just shifts and you see things totally differently? That's maybe not totally differently, but differently. That's what I want to talk about today, because I sort of experienced a shift like that myself. And I think that it's part of the human condition, and we can experience shifts like this where our perspective changes and just things seem different because our perspective changed, because we were willing and open to see things in a new way. And I sort of think at some point during the pandemic, I started meditating every day, which historically I've set that intention before, but I've not really done it. I've always had, even at my best, I've had a day off here and there. But at some point in the pandemic, I started doing it. I got this beautiful white Buddha statue in my living room, and I go and I sit. I usually sit first thing in the morning. A couple times something has happened to cause me to miss that, and that can be missed, especially on the weekend. But when I do miss it, I do pick it up later. So I wanted to tell you that because I think that practice of meditating every day has brought some interesting clarity to me where there wasn't as much clarity before. And it's sort of made me see things a little differently. And especially it's helped me to put down some stuff I was really holding on to. And that's important. We need to put down the things that don't serve us rather than carrying them around like they're important. So that is what I'm thinking about today. But now I'm going to just talk about some of my own views of myself and views of my role, I guess, that I am seeing in a kind of a different way now. And I'm going to start by telling a story. In 2017, one of my teachers, Lama Chuck Stanford, he retired from leading the Remay Center and teaching at the Remay Center. He retired. So, and he since then has moved away because none of his kids live here. But anyway, I call him one of my teachers, but I don't think he ever liked me very much. But that being said, he retired and someone else took over, someone named Matt. And when he retired, he said something that didn't mean anything at all to me at the time, but it's jumping out to me now. You see, his replacement, Matt, at the time, he didn't know if he should call himself a llama or not, or at least it seemed like he didn't know if he should call himself a llama or not. And Lama Chuck, who has no issues taking that title, right, told Matt he should. And in front of everyone, Chuck publicly said, "This is what my teacher told me. If you're doing the work of a llama, then you are a llama. So you are Llama Matt because you're running the Remay Center. That's the work of a llama." And in that moment, Matt became Llama Matt. I think that was, meaningful to him, but who knows, of course. But titles, I could talk a lot about titles in Buddhism. What is and is not a lama, what is and is not a Roshi or Zen master, but I don't want to do that right now. But suffice to say, there's some debate about who can and can't call themselves a lama. And that's what I wanted to say here. But I'm not here to talk about Llama Matt and Llama Chuck. Maybe at some point I will, but not right now. I just want to talk about how enormously meaningful that quote is to me. because I feel it's reversible. If you're not doing the work, then you're not. Okay. So someone who is not doing the work of a lama maybe shouldn't use that title. And that's also true. Someone who's not doing the work of a Zen priest should not use that title, because you're not doing anything. And that may be controversial. Some people might not like that, but that's sort of how I feel. And in the same way, outside of Buddhism, what are some ways we could talk about this? Not doing the work of maybe a parent who's totally absent is not doing the work of a dad or mom or parents. So they're not one. That's, I don't know. I've seen that thing like anybody can father a child. Anybody can be a dad. You can only be a father if you show up, or some version of that, right? And so I think of that. I think of showing up. So, if you're not doing the work of a lama, you're not a lama. But if you are, you are. 20 years ago, I first started exploring Buddhism. I started studying and practicing without the support of a community. I had given up the religion of my family, and at first I was one of those annoying anti-religion people that judges religious people. And thankfully I evolved from that pretty quickly, and I found Buddhism, and it just felt right to me. It just felt right to me. I don't know. I didn't know then, and I don't know now if I believe in like karma or fate or past lives. Although my view of things like that has softened in recent years, especially in the last year or so. So when I started learning about Buddhism, I can just say it's felt like something that was already a part of me, like I was supposed to find it. It really felt that way to me. So in that sense, I think karma and past lives, and I don't know, but maybe I just have a certain disposition that makes it meaningful to me. I don't know. But I practiced it by myself for 9 years. I'm not by nature a very social person. I don't really have close friends. And the truth is, it's hard for me to feel like I belong anywhere. And I know this is true of many people, right? So joining the community really scared me. Even visiting a community kind of scared me. The truth is that I still don't really know how to fit into one. But back then, my anxiety and my fears kept me away. My anxiety and my fears kept me away. So joining a community scared me. And that's really unfortunate, because I was going to college at KU, which means I lived in Lawrence, Kansas. So I lived in a city that has a Zen center, and I didn't go there. I didn't connect with those people until I didn't live there. And I think of how my journey could have gone differently, but at the same time, maybe I wasn't ready anyway, and my journey had to evolve the way it did. 11 years ago, I joined the Rime Center. The Rime Center is a non-sectarian Buddhist community in the Tibetan tradition, or in the Vajrayana tradition. And I joined it. It was, at the time, the biggest Buddhist community in Kansas City. I think it still is, but I'm not 100% certain of that at the moment. But if it's not, it will be again. But I was reluctant at first, because I had studied the various branches of Buddhism, and I thought some of the trappings of Tibetan Buddhism were silly. And really, in my head, somehow I had this idea that I really wanted to practice Zen Buddhism, because those books were the books that were my favorites. But the truth is, I didn't know what I wanted. I realize that now. But at that time, I really wished there was a Zen temple in Kansas City, and there still isn't, even though Kansas City is a pretty big city. So I became part of that community, the Remay Center. Non-sectarian means open to various traditions and various ideas. That's what that means. So, in fact, some teachings are taught there from all the different traditions of Buddhism. They are. So that non-sectarian, that openness, that appealed to me, and it still does. It still does. And that's um not to jump ahead too much, but the Remay Center is my spiritual community. It was, and it is again, and it wasn't for a little while, but it is. It is where I should be practicing, and it's where I belong. So, that being said, moving along, I became a part of that community, and I enjoyed practicing Buddhism with others. And I was glad to be there. I felt like I was part of something. I didn't have any. Again, I didn't have close friends, but I didn't have any Buddhist friends. And I went there and I met other Buddhists, and that was really meaningful to me. And, there's this ongoing debate people have. I don't know how loud the debate is, but there's this debate. People say you can have Buddhist communities online. You can practice on the internet and not meet other Buddhists. And I don't want to be really negative about that, but I do want to say, man, something's missing online, at least for me. Something is missing when you're just practicing with your friends on your computer screen or your phone. Something's missing. And I don't know how to define that. I don't know what that is. And some of that is maybe generational. I'm Generation X. I don't I don't I don't understand building really close friendships on the internet. I don't. And that, again, that could be generational because younger people than me seem to be doing it just fine. But in that sense, there's this debate about, can you have a spiritual community online? And to me, something's important is missing. But I'll put that aside. And I think that said, I think my view is losing. That is, we're going to see in this next generation Buddhist teachers that have never met other Buddhists in real life. We're going to see that very soon. We're seeing that start to emerge already. And it just, to me, something's missing. I don't want to necessarily crap all over that, but to me, something is missing. So in my view, I said all of that to say, in my view, a community that is present where you live is better than an online community. Even if the online community is more in line with what you want to teach and practice and learn, still in person, that personal connection, maybe better than is not a good phrase to use, but just that personal connection, meeting people, making friends with Buddhists, I think is an aspect of Buddhism that we should not throw away. And that being said, also, I want to say, joining an online spiritual community because there's no communities around you is different than joining one because you have anxiety about talking to people. And again, I get it. I have anxiety about talking to people. And I resisted for a long time. But anyway, back to my story. I felt like I was part of something, and that was meaningful to me. And I started volunteering in the children's program, which they called the Dharma School. And it's like a Sunday school that happens during the temple service. So parents can drop off their kids, and their kids learn something about Buddhism while they're at the Sunday service. So I started volunteering in that capacity, and I ended up running it, not really because I earned it or anything, but really because everybody else left. That is how people succeed sometimes, I think. So I took refuge vows at the Remay Center, and I got a Buddhist name, which was Kelsang Dakpa, which means fame and fortune. And I also took Pratimoksha and Bodhisattva vows. So I took all the vows available. I went up in vows. That's not a thing. But anyway, I took these vows to to dedicate my life to Buddhism, to help others whenever I can, to really take all this seriously, because to me it is serious. People ask that question, is Buddhism a religion or not? Which is, I think the question's ridiculous. I think it is not a good use of your time to reflect on that question, but because you can only really get more confused. But to me, it's a religion because we're supposed to take it very seriously. But I know some people would argue, like, no, it's a philosophy or whatever. Whatever. I think it's not an interesting question, but because religion's a loaded word. But anyway, vows are serious things and they shouldn't be taken or given lightly. And I may talk about vows at some point, but not right now. But I started to write about Buddhism too on the internet. I didn't present myself as an expert, just as a sincere practitioner. I like to write, and it's the reason I got an English degree in college is because I like to write. And so, anyway, I was practicing at the Remay Center in that period, and 10 years ago, I connected with a Zen teacher. He was an aspiring Zen teacher, but I didn't know that at the time. But he found me because of my association with the Remay Center, and he wanted to convince me that, okay, he was looking for students, and he convinced me that someone could become a Zen monk without changing their life very much. He convinced me of that. And in that organization, they use the title monk, which every other organization says Zen priest instead, because that I know of, because monk, gosh, we're getting in the weeds now, but in a Buddhist context, a monk is generally one who lives in a monastery, doesn't have a family, their job is monk. They don't have a job. And a priest would be like a lay clergy member, like a person who has like a pastor, right? So someone who has a family, has a home, has that this is maybe not their full-time job because they have another job as well. So anyway, he used the word monk for that, which most communities don't, and people get real confused because that group does that. But so two things are at play here. A few things are at play here. One is this person shows up to me and wants me to be his student, and that felt nice. That felt like getting chosen first in sports as a kid or something, which never happened for me. And I was inspired. Why did I think about being a Zen monk? Well, I had read some books that really inspired me, and they are Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki, Hardcore Zen by Brad Warner, and The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. And reading those books just made me think, oh, the Zen path is the path for me. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I can practice at the Remay Center, but also be doing this Zen teacher training with this guy, right? That's what I thought I could do. I could have the Remay Center for community because this guy didn't really have a community, and he, I think, didn't figure out how to build one, and he stopped trying, I think, but I don't know. But I was convinced I could, one, become this thing without changing my life much, and two, that I should do that. And to give him the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure he would say he didn't mean to convince me to do anything and that he just presented an opportunity to me or something. But I became convinced of those two things. And I can think now, why? Why? I don't. Okay. Well, I'll get to that later. But I went through the Zen monk training that they have, such as it was, and I took the vows to become a monk in that tradition. It was online. It was online teacher training. I can't say it was incredibly rigorous, but I can say I learned a lot. But it was nothing. Okay. It wasn't incredibly rigorous. That's all I'll say. It didn't seem rigorous to me. But after a while, some of the things about this organization and this teacher, who I'm not going to name here, didn't feel quite right. And he suddenly changed the rules on me one day, and I knew it was time to leave. Not just because I already had weird feelings, but because the rules suddenly changed. He said, "We're going to start expecting monks to wear robes all the time." And I knew I was not going to do that. He had convinced me on the pretext I wouldn't have to change my life very much. And like literally wearing robes all the time, that's not something I wanted to do. So I pushed back on that and I left the organization. And the truth is that rule, I don't even know if they fully implemented it, but it's not part of that organization now. So maybe I left for a reason though. Maybe things happen for a reason. I think that happened for a reason. There wasn't much of a community anyway, and I had not quit going to the Remay Center during that time. I don't think he's running a community at all now, but I could be wrong. I still had this idea, and I was excited at the prospect of a Zen temple in Kansas City, which he was at a point trying to establish, but it didn't go where he needed it to. But I still had this idea planted in me. I wanted to be a Zen priest. And so I was trying to figure out a way I could do that. I found some teachers on the internet that were willing and maybe even eager to vouch for me, which is it's a weird thing, but that was what I wanted to do, so what I tried to do. And that's, reflecting on that now, I think online connections aren't that meaningful to me. So why would I even make that effort? But the truth is, I'm not doing the work of a Zen priest or Zen monk, so I'm not one. And one day during the pandemic, I realized that, like, there's this idea in my head that at some point I'm going to make this thing happen, but do I even want it to? I don't know. I'm not doing Zen rituals for anyone. I'm not serving a Zen community. And that's what a Zen priest does. I don't have any students that are learning from me. So, and that's okay. I'm not sad about that. I'm not expressing that. I'm not lamenting right now. And I think it's the same with the word Dharma teacher, which is sometimes used in Buddhism. And I've used that at times to describe myself. But again, I don't have students. I'm not doing the work of a Dharma teacher. I'm a speaker and a writer who's interested in Buddhism, but I'm not teaching anyone really. Like, people can read my work and watch my videos, but to me, that's below the level of teacher and below the level of priest too. And the truth is, I'm not teaching Zen teachings. I'm teaching the teachings I like to talk about. And some of those are Zen teachings and some of those are Tibetan teachings. The truth is, in person, I trained as a Zen monk for about approximately a year. But I studied Buddhism at the Remay Center. I studied and taught Buddhism at the Remay Center for 7 to 8 years. 7 to 8 years. Like, that is, I can say I got something from that Zen teacher training, but I spent a lot of time studying at the Remay Center, taking classes and going on retreats and meeting with teachers. And that's where my real training was, I think. So, like, thinking of myself as a Zen teacher or anything of the sort is, that doesn't seem to fit me in my view anymore. And I really reflected on that in the pandemic, during the really bad part when there was a lot of uncertainty, which was, I guess, a lot of it. But at a certain point in the pandemic, I was struggling and my mind just turned to those Bodhisattva teachings, not to the Zen teachings, to the Bodhisattva teachings that I learned at the Rime Center. I went through really studying the Lojong teachings and the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva and Shantideva's way of the Bodhisattva. And I couldn't stop thinking about these teachings and studying them and putting them into practice. And that's what helped me. That's what helped me. That, and I've I've established a statue garden in my backyard of Buddha statues and just clearing the area for them and setting them up and offering incense to them. Like, that has been enormously meaningful to me. And I didn't think that would happen. I've historically not seen myself as a devotional Buddhist, and that's those are devotional things, but I'm connecting with doing that. Like, doing that has helped me and transformed me. So I'm more of a devotional Buddhist than I was in the past. And the truth is that Tibetan Buddhism has room for devotional practices, and Zen less so. And Tibetan Buddhism has room for compassion, heart-centered teachings, and Zen has room for those too, but less. And heart-centered teachings are really where my heart has led me. So I'm thinking of those teachings a lot more than I'm thinking of the Zen teachings. Even though the Zen teachings were my favorites in the beginning, I'm thinking more of the great depth of Tibetan teachings, and especially Tibetan Mahayana, the great vehicle teachings. And maybe I'll talk at some point about the difference between Mahayana and Vajrayana. I don't know that that's interesting to a lot of people, but I'm not going to go into it here. But Lama Matt gave me the title Gigan, which means teacher or tutor in Tibetan, Gigan. And I felt incredibly honored when he gave me that title. It's the word that gets applied to lay teachers. And that is what I was when I was teaching at the Rime Center. I was a lay teacher. And although I now am in a position where I feel more connected to that title than I do to Zen priest, I can't in good conscience use it because I'm not doing the work of a Gigan. I'm not teaching. That would be teaching Buddhism, which I'm interested in doing, but I'm not doing that. And in my opinion, a teacher without students is not a teacher. And I don't know if I'll have the opportunity to teach Buddhism again. I have sort of tried to create my own opportunities, and it hasn't worked out for me. And although I'm going to the Rime Center again as a member, I don't. I'm open to possibilities, but I'm also not going to try to make things happen. There, that's a good way to put it. I'm open to possibilities, but I'm not going to try to make things happen. So what work am I doing? Occasionally, I do teach meditation. I'm doing the work of a meditation teacher. So I'm a meditation teacher. I taught at a local library recently, and that was really meaningful to me. And not too long ago, I taught at a store called Aquarius Kansas City. It's a Aquarius KC. It's a spiritual store. They sell incense and statues and books and things. And so I taught there. So in those two contexts, I've taught meditation in the recent future. I believe that just about anyone can teach other people how to meditate. We tend to think there's some great secret to it, but there's not. You've just got to be able to speak with confidence on it when you teach it, I think, and able to answer questions. So, and I'm thoroughly able to do both of those things. I'm also a speaker and a writer. I'm speaking right now, and I'm comfortable saying I am those things. I may have more in common with Alan Watts than I do with Thich Nhat Hanh, if I'm honest. And that means, just speaking and commenting, and that's enough. And I'm trying to do the work of a bodhisattva. I'm studying and practicing and cultivating virtue. I'm not going to say I'm a bodhisattva, but because that feels bigger than me, but I will say I'm an aspiring bodhisattva. I'm aspiring to help the people around me and to make the world a better place. And you know, for the first time, I'm able to do that as part of my job too. And that's really great. I'm a union steward, so I help mistreated workers, and I'm a leader in our union. And that so it's good in my day job. I can feel like I'm doing good in the world, helping people that maybe are having trouble helping themselves. So that's it. I wanted to be a Zen priest for a while, and I told people this, and I have robes and everything. And it's a weird thing and a little embarrassing to even look back on that now. It's blaming's not the right thing, but just to say that that idea was planted in my head by that guy, and I held on to it for a long time. And I feel like the clarity of my meditation practice has helped me realize like that's not me. I do, though, I do an open awareness practice, which is essentially the same as Zazen. But I can't call myself a Zen teacher or anything of the sort. I met some really wise teachers like Dosho Port and Manhei, and this really should have confirmed for me that that's not who I am. That's not where I'm going. I'm nowhere near being a Zen teacher. Dosho Port and Manhei are Zen teachers and really good at what they do, and that's not me. The truth is, I trained with one Zen teacher for a pretty short time, and then I studied with some teachers on the internet. And I really wanted to be able to make that more than it was, but emailing back and forth with a teacher isn't the same as training with them, no matter how much you do it, and no matter how much they encourage you and they tell you it is. I hope it doesn't offend anyone that I said that. There are organizations out there that function entirely on this premise. I see that in the modern world, people are out there trying to have not only teachers, but also whole spiritual communities exist online. And I don't know how that works for anyone, but it doesn't work for me. I had a lot more training at the Rime Center where I ran the youth program, and I went on dozens of retreats with various teachers, and I took many, many classes. And so really, if I'm honest, I'm closer to a Rime Buddhist with a Zen influence than I am to a Zen Buddhist. And that's just became very clear to me now. Maybe I just wanted to be cool and different from the Buddhists around me. I don't know. Maybe I wanted to think, oh, these people, they believe in spirits and magic. I don't, because I'm a Zen Buddhist. I don't believe in spirits and magic. Maybe I had that kind of view. We look for ways to feel like we're above other people, and we do that even in spirituality. Some would argue, especially in spirituality, I don't know. But we do that. We tell ourselves things about ourselves. We're usually either trying to lift ourselves up or trying to put ourselves down, but we're not clear normally. And so, like I said, when the pandemic hit and I was struggling with all that uncertainty and isolation, it wasn't the Zen teachings that helped me get through it. It was all those teachings I learned at the Rime Center. And now, Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva has turned out to be the guide to my life. I used to study the teachings while at the same time thinking that there were better teachings out there and I was above them or something, but I was so deluded. And, I stopped going to the Rime Center 3 years ago, and when the pandemic started to lift and when they were available for in-person things, which, like many temples and churches, they weren't for a while, I decided to go back. I can have a fresh start. It's been closed down because of the pandemic. It's in a new location, and it felt just like going home, even though it's a new space. I still want to teach people about Buddhism, but I'm not sure if that's an opportunity that will present itself in my life ever again, and it's not something I'm going to try to force. So I'm not doing the work of a Zen priest or a Gigan, at least not right now, and that's okay. But I will keep doing the work of an aspiring bodhisattva. I'm thinking about ways to do good in the world and to be more mindful and to help others, and that's what life is about, and that's what I want to do. And like I said, I'm trying to do bodhisattva action in my job as a union representative. I don't want to make that sound like more than it is, but I'm trying to listen hard and to fight for people who need someone in their corner. And that is enormously meaningful. To me, that is the great bodhisattva action of putting some good into the world. And I have now, at this time in my life, I have a wife. I got married in September. So actually it'll be a year soon. And I have 4 kids, and I have a garden full of Buddha statues in my backyard because I've slowly grown more devotional in my practice, and I never thought that would happen. I was sort of a really secular leaning, Zen inspired person, and now I've shifted. And I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know I'm letting go of things that don't serve me and don't seem to be part of my journey. So I'm sorry for giving an entire episode that's such a life update. But I wanted to because things have been changing, and I know things have been changing in my podcast, and it's because I'm inspired by different things. I'm a Rime Buddhist. I'm a non-sectarian Mahayana Buddhist, and that's an okay thing to be, I think. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you're not bored. And expect more Bodhisattva teachings from me. And I'm still some Zen teachings, but expect more talking about Bodhisattva teachings from me because that's what I'm interested in. And that's it. I will talk to you soon.
Hey, I'm Daniel, the host of the Sharpening the Mind podcast. I'm just going to talk to you for just a minute about Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me as a podcaster.
Thank you for listening, and have a good day.